Modern Warfare 2 has been out for about a month now, and I think this has been enough time for Infinity Ward to make the changes to get the game to an acceptable state that it should have been at a release. I skipped out on COD Vanguard after hearing about its very poor launch state. I was therefore hoping that Modern Warfare 2 would launch in a much more acceptable manner. However, after picking up the game about a week after release, I was disappointed by the number of maps and lacking content, with no leaderboards or combat record to show. As a result of this, there was a lot to be desired by me and a lot of the COD community. So we've been patiently awaiting the release of Season 1 to hopefully rectify some of the issues that the game had at launch. This review will aim to compare the launch state of Modern Warfare 2 and the current Season 1 state of the game. This will be a multiplayer review, as I plan to review the campaign in a separate video later down the line. Sit back, maybe even grab some popcorn as I review the Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer. I'll begin by talking about the incredible. I don't think there's much of it here, but I think there's enough that's worth talking about. Firstly, for me, is the camo progression. Whilst it might not be the biggest grind like previous Call of Duties, I think the sheer number of camos in the game and the quality of them is enough to make it a really fun experience. Firstly, you must get each weapon to the max level, which is a fun experience testing out the weapon and trying out all the new attachments you unlock along the way. Once at max level, you'll have 4 camo challenges unlocked. You will then complete these 4 challenges for 4 different camos, which are all different for each weapon. These camos, once unlocked, can be used on any weapon in the game, which I think is a fantastic new addition to the game, as it increases the amount of camos in the game and also saves you grinding for the same camo, but just on a different weapon. Much like in previous COD titles, this game also features some mastery camos. This game features gold camo, platinum camo, the polyatomic camo, and the final camo, the Orion camo. Now that is a lot of camos. The gold camo returns from every other Call of Duty game, and here it looks absolutely incredible. So look how shiny it is. Gold camo can be unlocked by completing the 4 challenges on the gun, plus an additional challenge to unlock the gold. This has been done on all the weapons in the class. You unlock the platinum camo, which returns from Modern Warfare 2019. It's definitely superior to that version, with a bit more detail to it, but still, I do think the gold camo does look superior, which is a bit strange, I think, given the increased challenge for this camo. New addition to the game, however, is that the platinum camo also requires a small challenge to be completed for each weapon to be able to use the camo on the gun. Once this has been done, for every weapon in the game, you will unlock the polyatomic camo. This once again requires a small challenge to be completed to use on the gun. I think this camo looks really nice and looks very sleek and clean. The Orion camo is then unlocked after every polyatomic challenge has been completed on every weapon in the game. This camo looks mediocre in my opinion. It doesn't look as good as the dark matters in the past, but is a serviceable mastery camo and I think is worth the grind. Overall, the camo progression in this game is a major positive. It will bring so much variety to your gameplay, and the sheer amount of camos is just astonishing really for a Call of Duty game. I think they've bridged the gap between casual fun and a nice grind for more hardcore players. Another small point to mention is, old camos from previous games have been added. I was astonished when I saw the Spectrum camo from Call of Duty Ghosts, which is one of my favourite camos of all time. I remember back in the day in COD Ghosts seeing YouTubers like Ali with that camo, and it was a pre-order bonus, and I used to freak out over that. So seeing it in this game was just another major positive for me. Before we also get off the camo topic, I'll also mention that with Season 1, we received 3 new weapons, 2 which are through the Battle Pass, 1 which is unlocked through DMZ, and all of them contain their 4 unique camos, which means 12 new camos have been added to the game, and it's very positive looking forward because it means that with every new gun added, there's going to be 4 new camos per gun. So that's a lot more content that's going to be in this year's game. The next incredible area of the game for me is the animation side of the game. This game for me leads the industry in gun and weapon animations. You can really see the passion that the anime has had with this game. I mean, look at this clip from Modern Warfare 2019 and you can just see the passion that's really transferred over into this project.
Glasses, like, the animations from Modern Warfare 2, and they were pretty awesome. But I got back here, we started putting the videos on the TVs out there in the lobby. It's not flattering at all, at all.
But hey, the animations in this game are gonna be awesome.
These, no one can touch these. Even the reload, I mean, you're next, and it turns it over and then just, it's so good.
Whenever you reload a weapon or use any animation with that weapon, you can really see the passion the developers put into it. The animators did an awesome job in making sure every weapon feels realistic, but they don't impact gameplay in a bad way. I'll go over this point more in my campaign review because I feel like in the campaign you're more likely to look around and smell the roses with these weapons a lot more, whereas in multiplayer you're running around, drop shotting people and not really paying attention to these weapons as much. I'll next go over the areas of the game that I think are good, and superior to the recent COD titles. The first area of the game which I classify as good is the Gunsmith. This makes a return from the last few Call of Duty games but has a few slight changes. Firstly, weapon tuning. Weapon tuning allows you to tailor each weapon to how you like them. For example, if you want more ADS speed. This however could come at the cost of more recoil on your gun. This overall adds a layer of depth to the game. The player is constantly encouraged to change their attachments and tuning to find what's best for them. I think overall this adds to the replay value of the game, as you're always looking for what can make your gun better. The only gripe with this that I have is that it's not as detailed as the other games. Cold War, for example, showed more detailed stats and showed the pros and cons of the weapon after each attachment changed. I was really hoping this feature would return, as it really helped us understand what was really happening to the weapon. The next area of the game that I think is good is the gunplay. I mentioned the animations in the previous section. The overall package here is no different. The animations, sound design and hit detection are all really good. All these things work together to make the gameplay a lot more satisfying. With the exception of marksman rifles feeling a tad overpowered, I think most of the guns in this game are pretty balanced. One of the days of overpowered weapons like the 7.25 in Modern Warfare 2019, sniping people across the map. Instead we have a wide selection of guns, most of which seem pretty usable, and most importantly, fun to use. The final area I'm going to put in the good section of this video is the new map style battle pass. At first glance, it may look a little confusing, potentially even overwhelming for a new player. But once you get to grips with it, it allows you to choose what rewards you want and when. Whilst at the end, everyone will end up with the same 100 items, it allows you to really progress and unlock the guns and cosmetics that you want. Whilst at first, it may have seemed a bit pointless to reinvent this battle pass, I think it's actually added a bit more interaction with it, which is a bit more fun. A small point I'll mention on the end of this section is that game chat feels a lot more populated, akin to the old lobbies in the original Modern Warfare 2. I would love to showcase some of the things I've heard in game chat, but then again, I don't really want this video to be banned off YouTube. I will now showcase the areas of the game which I think this game does pretty average compared to the other Call of Duty games. The first thing I would love to throw into this section is the map design, one of the most important factors in any multiplayer shooter. And in this game, it's a very mixed bag. The map design is the #1 factor in determining whether I stay playing that game for the long term. Games like Call of Duty World War II offered exclusively 3-lane maps, which while all play well, I find a bit boring. In Modern Warfare 2019, there was a complete contrast to this, with all the maps feeling a lot more realistic and therefore a bit more complex. However, as mentioned by the developers, these maps were designed to have safe spaces for new players. The gameplay a lot more slow. I was therefore hoping for a nice mix between 3-lane fast-paced maps and some larger maps to mix up the gameplay. An example of a traditional style map in this game is Farm 18. This provides a lot of close quarters combat. Whilst the maps seem to have a bit more verticality and flanking routes than maps in COD World War II, I still don't think they're of the same complexity than in the old MW2. I therefore believe there isn't a strong enough mix of maps. The game could therefore benefit from a couple more large maps in rotation. The overall selection here is serviceable, with the particular standouts being Greenberg Hotel and Embassy. Embassy in particular provides a few power positions which I think are really fun to fight over. As expected in a Call of Duty game, there are some poor maps. The border crossing map in particular is very poor, and in my opinion has way too much going on, making gunfights very difficult and mostly unenjoyable. This game definitely would have benefited from more maps, but I will get onto the content of this game later on in the video. Name a more iconic duo than Modern Warfare 2 and iconic kill streaks. That's the previous MW2 I'm talking about, because this game they seem a bit lackluster. Most of them returned from Modern Warfare 2019, with a few new ones, most notably the Stealth Bomber. These kill streaks just don't feel as powerful as previous games, and you don't really get scared like you used to when they get called in. They're also very fragile. I mean, look at this clip here of me shooting down a counter UAV. It took just 6 shots to shoot this thing down. Finally, for the average, I will talk about game modes. As expected, traditional classics like Domination return. Some new game modes as well, such as Prisoner Rescue. Teams must either get the hostage out or defend them. The variety expected from modern COD games, but I do think this game would definitely benefit from some party game modes, maybe such as Prop Hunt, which would provide a more chill space to have fun and relax with friends. I do think it's a shame that these modern COD games really don't have an emphasis on having fun anymore. There always used to be a few party modes to go into when you're a bit bored of normal multiplayer to have a bit of fun. Whilst we may see some return down the line, I do think it would be better to launch with them, as first impressions are such a huge part of gaming. I simply can't talk about the bad with Call of Duty without mentioning skill-based matchmaking. One of my least favourite parts of modern gaming makes a triumphant return here, and once again spoils a lot of the fun for me. Whilst I must admit this year doesn't feel as strong, and I do feel like I'm having a bit more fun with the game, I still feel like after a few good games I'll be thrown into a lot sweatier lobbies, only to get destroyed and put back in bad lobbies again. I am by no means an amazing player, with a pretty average 1.4 KD, but I feel like I'm actively being punished for doing well. In a casual shooter like Call of Duty, skill-based matchmaking does not have a place. I do see the benefit of protecting newer players, but this cannot come at the cost of hardcore players. The only place skill-based matchmaking should be in Call of Duty is in a ranked playlist. It should not be in the casual playlist, ruining the fun. Skill-based matchmaking is a topic I'd love to make a video about later down the line, as it's something I'm very passionate about, and is something that I think is a huge issue with modern gaming. Moving away from the matchmaking, the next area of the game that I think is quite bad is the user interface. If I was to ask you if you've ever noticed a COD user interface, you probably wouldn't have, because a good user interface goes unnoticed. But let me tell you, many of you have probably noticed how poor this Modern Warfare 2 user interface is, because a bad user interface is definitely noticeable. When I'm playing the game and even changing my class, it just feels like I'm on a smart TV rather than a video game. Certain areas of the game as well, such as the invite friends feature, is just extremely hidden away, and I don't understand how a new player is going to find all this stuff, to be honest. Now yes, I know that there is going to be an updated UI coming later down the line, but I just have to question, why does the game launch with such a poor UI if they know that it's bad? And I think that acts as a perfect segue into the next area of the game which I think is poor, and this might be the worst yet. That is the content. For this part of the video, I'll have to be comparing the game to the old Modern Warfare 2, as that game really showed you how to make a game with a lot of content. This game launched with 9 maps, compared to the original Modern Warfare 2 having 16 maps. Even when Season 1 ends in a couple months, this game will still only have 11 maps, 5 short of the original MW2. Something that doesn't even surprise me anymore is this game also didn't even launch with a combat record, or even leaderboards for that matter. We had to wait a few weeks after release just to get these features, which were usually just there on release. It's for these reasons the game just feels a bit dull at times. Other than the camo progression, there's not really much else to play for. The limited number of maps really limits the amount of fun you can have in this game. There simply isn't enough variety. Alongside leaderboards and a combat record, Season 1 also brought prestiges into the game. For me, this version just is not as good. You are not reset after each prestige and forced to earn everything again. Instead, your level just constantly goes up, and once you reach a certain point, you prestige. But this is not satisfying whatsoever. I can barely even tell when I've prestiged. The original Modern Warfare 2 launched with 10 prestiges, and Modern Warfare 3 launched with 20. This game launched with 0 prestiges, and even after Season 1, we are only at 5. And yes, I know, more prestiges will be added later down the line, but I just don't get why this game isn't launched to the same standard as a game released almost 15 years ago. Spawns. Spawn's also pretty horrendous, but check out this video if you want to find out more. In conclusion, I still believe that despite its flaws, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 is a good Call of Duty game, and is definitely an improvement on Modern Warfare 2019, which is what I expect from a sequel. The game at its core is still a fun experience, which I think is the most important thing about a game at the end of the day. The gunplay is smooth, and despite my potentially harsh complaints, the map design is pretty solid. Once again, Infinity Ward proved their passion for making this game realistic, with out of this world animations and sound design. However, the game has some glaring flaws which really hold it back from being considered a top tier Call of Duty game, to the same standard as the original Modern Warfare 2. Overall, if you are looking for a fun Call of Duty experience, I would recommend this game, but maybe consider waiting a few months for it to have the sufficient content it should have had at release.